for William Dugan. Now, William Dugan died on July 31st, 1874. And on his tombstone, I don't know how well you can see this, but there's a mule, a girl, a man lying down in the street, and a jug of whiskey below him. Apparently he died from being kicked by a mule. And apparently, he's one of the earliest cases in St. Charles of drunken driving. Now, the story goes that the mule ran away and this little girl caught the mule. Although, she might have been the first case of a designated driver. The German Methodist Cemetery, or the Wesleyan Cemetery, or the United Methodist Wesleyan Cemetery, it's got many names, even Westenkieler Cemetery. The first property for this cemetery dates to 1856. There was a second parcel was deeded in 1859. Now, the 1856 parcel, looking at the deed on that, noticed it was located next to the Old Boonslick Road. Now, why they called it the Old Boonslick Road, I'm not sure. But I don't know if it was rerouted or something, and that had been where the Boonslick Road originally was. But the First United Methodist Church is put up a marker here, and anyway, dedicated to the burials. The cemetery was deeded to the First United Methodist Church in 1959. The original property owner was H.H. Westenkieler, and he died in 1869. He's buried here. There's also a guy by the name of Wesley Wirtz here. Why do I put him in there? Well, you see, there's this chorus I sing in called the Ambassadors of Harmony. And there was a group of guys that were the founding members of it was called the Daniel Boone Chorus, or the St. Charles chapter of the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America Incorporated. Wesley Wirtz was one of the co-founding members of the chorus. Johann Hausen was the co-owner of a sawmill at 1106 South Main with his brother Peter. The earliest stone I found was Charlotte Hausen, who died in 1851. That's an old marker. There's a map of the German Methodist Cemetery at the St. Charles County Historical Society. And you can also find one in the deed book, one of the deed books, I think it's deed book W number 2, pages 528, 529, at the Recorder of Deeds. Most of their cemetery maps are in their hanging files, but that one wasn't. The second city cemetery lasted all of 4 years. In 1856, Mayor John Hilbert deeded 6 acres of property on the hill overlooking St. Charles for the city cemetery. But 4 years later, the city decided to purchase ground up on the Salt River Road, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, I first learned about this thanks to a Facebook post, which Doris is familiar with, and it was a map taken from a book on Colville by Cheryl Guffey, showing the city cemetery located south of town. I've been told that the map is in the map files of the St. Charles County Historical Society, but I have not been able to uncover it. But there are a lot of maps there, so it could be there. Today, we have a vacant lot on the hill, but on the highest point of the hill, you have Comfort Inn and Suites. I don't know if we should tell visitors that they're sleeping on top of a cemetery when they go to check into this hotel, but you know.
But it's comfortable.
It is comfortable, yes. hopefully they'll take comfort and sleep well. The Robbins Burying Ground is located, and I didn't quite get this right, it's closer to the Fox Hill Apartments, between 370 and 94. And this is a cemetery that was discovered by going through the cemetery files at the Historical Society. In 1859, the Robbins family deeded property to the county for a family burying ground. Going through some of the city council minutes at Linneman Library, I found out that there were several Robbins family members that were actually removed from Oak Grove Cemetery in 1864. It was then called the City Cemetery, it wasn't called Oak Grove. And I'm assuming, I would presume, that maybe they were moved to this cemetery. It doesn't actually say where they were moved to. And I don't have a picture of the area. That was hard to get, and